Alex Pereira. This guy is the most feared fighter in the UFC right now. He is one of the most decorated kickboxers in kickboxing history. And I believe he's also the fastest fighter to win 2 UFC belts. And without question, pound for pound, Alex Pereira is the most powerful and feared striker in the UFC right now. When this guy touches your chin, you get decapitated. He has obviously his money shot. His money shot is his left hook, his lead left hook. He has knocked out, I don't even know how many people in his MMA kickboxing career with that one shot alone. And he does a great job of just setting it up perfectly with his jab. So often he'll jab his opponents to the body just to get his timing, his range, and just set up that lead hook. And then another thing with Alex Pereira is that if his best shot is his lead hook, his 1A, his 1B is his calf kick. He is the most effective calf kicker in the UFC right now as well. He's just overall one of, if not the best striker in the UFC today, and he's easily one of the best strikers in UFC history. His just overall package, his overall frame, his experience, his age, everything about him. He has a crazy aura about him. He's so intimidating. Everything about Alex Pereira is just exceptional right now at this point in time. He is a huge fan favorite. Everyone loves Alex Pereira as well, so he's got the fans by his side. So that's another thing to add on to what his opponents have to handle. You know, we've only mentioned his lead hook and his calf kick, but his overall package is exceptional. He throws flying knees that will kill you. He throws switch kicks that will kill you, rear kicks. And I think one of his most underrated advantages in just any fight lately is the fact that he is so active. So a lot of people talk about ring rust and how negatively that impacts you into a fight if you haven't fought in a few years. And we also got to consider the fact that there is an opposite end of the spectrum for that in a positive way for guys that are active, and especially if they're winning and aren't really getting hurt. And that's Alex Pereira. And then just looking at Alex Pereira, this guy is a mutant. He was something that was created by Vought. If you guys have watched The Boys, definitely watch that. Great show. But he's like Homelander's stepbrother, Alex Pereira, in my opinion. He is not human. He's made out of vibranium at minimum. Like, there's no way this guy's human and he's not a lizard. Now, with all that being said, Alex Pereira does definitely have some weaknesses as well. First and foremost, he is a kickboxer, he's a striker, so that automatically makes everyone think that he's not a great grappler. And I don't want to say he's not a great grappler, but I'll just say that Israel Adesanya took him down. But the thing with his grappling, we just haven't seen him against an elite grappler. Like, the best grappler we've seen him against is probably Jan Blachowicz. And Jan Blachowicz, when he fought him, he was 40 years old. He's not known to be an elite grappler in the sense of he's going to take you down constantly for 5 rounds. He was 40 years old. And the fight was also at elevation. I just want to see Alex Pereira. I want to see how he does against a grappler who's known to grapple for 5 rounds and doesn't get tired and is in his prime. I want to see what happens in that situation, because Pereira, when he gets taken down, he does a great job at defending submissions, great job at defending, just being in bad positions on the mat. So I'm just curious of how he does against a guy who's known to be a grappler. Is Jiri Prochazka that guy? No. But he's definitely capable of taking down Alex Pereira because he did in their last fight. He's just got to tweak his game plan a lot. Because if he does that same game plan, he's getting knocked out again. So another weakness is that a lot of fighters have this weakness, and it's a tendency, and I don't blame them. It's just when they get their opponent hurt and they get overzealous and they just start exchanging, just forgetting about defense. That's what got Alex Pereira knocked out against Israel Adesanya in the rematch fight. And, when we're talking about Alex Pereira getting knocked out, he does keep his hands relatively low, not as low as Jiri Prochazka. So he is open to a counter overhand right, or just counter shots in general. Like Jamal Hill, he landed a good counter hook after Pereira threw a switch kick to the body. So if I'm Jiri Prochazka, counter Alex Pereira as well. So that's also something you got to take into consideration. Now, with all that being said, let's talk about the samurai himself, Jiri Prochazka, one of the most exciting fighters, one of the funniest characters in the UFC right now. So Jiri Prochazka, he is just a wild man. If you didn't know, he went a little viral because he does this thing where he'll spend like multiple days in the darkness without food or water. I think the only thing he has is a toilet, if that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy shits his pants in the dark for 3 days. Like, that is Jiri Prochazka, and he wouldn't care. He wouldn't care. And I wouldn't care either. I'm not talking shit to that guy whatsoever. He's very intimidating, very scary, and he's also hilarious. So it's just funny how that all adds up. And obviously the first thing you think of with Jiri Prochazka, other than his hair that connects to Wi-Fi from outer space, is his fighting style. He has a crazy fighting style. He has the most unique fighting style that you will ever see if you're an MMA fan. What other fighter fights a Jiri Prochazka? Tell me. Comment it. Comment it right now. I'll watch it right now. Dominic Cruz? No. Dominic Cruz is like this all day. There's just no one like him. He's exceptional at just throwing strikes at crazy angles. He's just dipping his head constantly. He's doing a lot of unorthodox movements that you just can't replicate, and that's what makes him so good. You can't prepare for him, so he catches a lot of his opponents off guard. Like, you can watch as much tape as you want against him, but then under the bright lights, like, it's a guy who's doing crazy motions, like throwing uppercuts from crazy angles. So you're going to be like, what the hell? You're going to be taking pictures, and then you're going to get knocked out. You're going to wake up in the ambulance, and then Jiri Prochazka is going to be bowing to you, like dabbing you up, saying, thanks, bro. And Jiri Prochazka, another reason why he is such an effective striker is that he's great at switching stances, so that's more angles his opponents have to be worried about. And then on top of that, with his unpredictability, his switching stances, and his unorthodox approach to striking, is that he also throws a lot of feints as well. So that's just another thing to add on to what you have to worry about with Jiri Prochazka, because you're going to be reacting to possible strikes that aren't even coming, and then you're going to be just setting yourself up to get knocked out by another strike. And then, of course, he's extremely powerful. If he connects with your chin even a little bit, you're going to sleep. When he knocked out Volkan Ozdemir, he like threw his entire body weight into that. It was crazy. He was like mid-jump, and he knocked him out, and then Volkan died. Well, that was a wild knockout. And then, speaking of wild knockouts with Jiri Prochazka, he had one of the more disturbing knockouts that I can remember. When I'm thinking of disturbing knockouts, I'm thinking Tony Ferguson. That was the most disturbing. I thought he died. I'm thinking Bryce Mitchell when he had a seizure after he got knocked out. And then I'm also thinking of Jiri Prochazka when he spinning elbow knocked out Dominic Cruz. And the way he landed on his neck, I thought he broke his neck. That was also very scary. So yeah, he's capable of doing some bad things to you. Imagine what he'd do to your wife. Now, I've only been talking about Jiri Prochazka striking, deservedly so. That's his main part of his game. But he is a damn good grappler in himself. I feel like that's a little underrated. Jiri Prochazka, he submitted Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira is one of the better, from what I've heard, MMA submission artists in I don't know, in MMA. You know, as long as it's been around, he's one of the guys that's talked about. And on top of that, in that fight, he showed he's capable of getting out of nasty submission attempts. Glover Teixeira had a tight arm triangle choke in, and I thought it was over. I thought it was a wrap, and Jiri Prochazka literally flipped out of the submission attempt. It was unbelievable. And then even after that, or even before that, there was multiple times where he swept Glover Teixeira, he swept the position, and he ended up on top. He's just a phenomenal grappler, and he showed it a lot in that fight. So it's very, very interesting of how he would do if he took a more grappling heavy approach against Alex Pereira in this fight, because he definitely has the advantage if he wants to take that approach. And then just my favorite part about Jiri Prochazka's game that I admire the most is that he's just fearless. Even when he's badly hurt, he's gonna march forward. He's just fearless. Like, it doesn't matter who he's against. If he's badly hurt, he's gonna march forward, and that's just something to admire him about. And that's something also is what makes him dangerous, because he's always gonna be dangerous. He's always gonna be looking for the knockout. Like in that Rakic fight, he was just constantly looking for the knockout. He didn't care about anything other than finishing his opponent. And that's why in his last 30 fights, he's went to the decision twice. He's went to a decision twice. So that's just mad. Like, this guy doesn't want to go to decision. He'd rather get knocked out. And of course, we obviously got to get to the negatives of Jiri Prochazka's game. So first and foremost, with his fighting style, he gets hit a lot. And that is very, very, very dangerous against a guy like Alex Pereira that can put your lights out very quickly. He gets hit pretty often. He carries his hands very low, and that's what makes him get hit pretty often. And there's even a meme that just goes around whenever he's about to fight, and it's just him headbutting punches that are coming his way. Like, what? He is just out there. He's in space, and, you know, that's probably because he blocks punches. He headbutts punches. So it's like a movie when they headbutt a punch and their arm just explodes. It's just, I love this guy. If there's anyone to do that in real life, it's Jiri. And it's also important to remember that he did have that really bad shoulder injury not too long ago. You know, he got injured in training, and then his coach decided to try to pop his shoulder back into place and ended up making it the worst UFC shoulder injury that the doctors have seen. That's also something that we got to take into consideration. And I just don't know if he's capable of fighting a grappling heavy fight against Alex Pereira, because if I'm Jiri, that's going to be my approach. He had the most success just pressing forward against Alex Pereira, putting him against the cage, landing strikes, and then just mixing in the takedowns more often. And then when you're mixing in the takedowns, feint the takedown, keep Alex Pereira guessing, and just get him against the fence as much as possible. Because when you're out in the open and Alex Pereira is able to just move and slide back because he's so slick out of your punches, out of your kicks, you're in trouble and you're about to get knocked out. You got to make it a dirty fight. You got to put him in the clinch. Probably more of a boring fight, in all honesty, but that's their path to victory. But I just don't know if Jiri is the guy to just have that grappling heavily approach against Alex Pereira. And when we're talking about their last matchup, Jiri Prochazka and Alex Pereira, Jiri got battered by Alex Pereira's calf kicks. And even in his last fight against Alexander Rakic, whatever, he also got badly hurt by his calf kicks as well. So he's very susceptible to those calf kicks. And that is one of Alex Pereira's strongest weapons in a fight. So is he going to be able to all of a sudden check these calf kicks, because you know they're coming his way? And even if he checks them, how well of a job is he going to do? Now, for my final prediction, in all honesty, I really just don't see Jiri Prochazka winning this fight. And I did notice that Jiri Prochazka, in their last fight, he loves to dip his head. And Alex Pereira was taking note of that. He started to throw some head kicks before he knocked out Jiri Prochazka, sorry. And I just think that Alex Pereira is going to take note of that, and I think he's going to knock him out with a flying knee, just like in his UFC debut. It was just something I noticed and something I saw watching their last fight back, and I don't know, that just came to mind. I feel like that makes sense. So I'm going to go Alex Pereira round 2 flying knee knockout against Jiri Prochazka.